Hi, my name is Geoffrey Moussas. I'm the chief designer and architect at Genji Kyoto. I'd like to explain the concept behind our hotel, which is for the guests to have an authentic Japanese experience.
One of our major features, which are the views. The views were meticulously calculated for each room, some having views of the Kamo River and the mountains, some of the city, but all of them are individual. For now, I want to talk about the very beginning when this project started was based upon the machiya, which are townhouses that were located on this property. They were very old and dilapidated, so we couldn't save them, but I still wanted to work with the prototype and the way the buildings are formed to allow for things like cross ventilation. And in the meantime, we learned that this is the location that a lot of the tale of Genji took place in. And we kind of moved from the idea of machiya to the idea of the tale of the Genji as the main impetus for the hotel. Not in a literal way of taking things from the chapters and so forth or the characters, but actually going back to the time the book was written, which is over 1,000 years ago, which is the Heian period, and take the building types then, which were shinden zukuri, and they're just little houses, kind of little pavilions in a large garden connected by bridges. Gardens were really one of the most important elements in our hotel. There was a saying, te yoku ichi nyo, which is basically you take the garden and the building, and they're so inextricably interwoven that it's hard to separate them, so they become one. So we tried to do that wherever we could in this hotel. And the first place you encounter this is probably when you walk into the lobby and you see the main garden, which is called the Yukifune Garden after one of the chapters. It's hard to tell where the building ends and where the garden begins, and vice versa. And that happens in any traditional garden you see in Japan. You will notice when you go into your rooms, there's at least 2 or 3 pocket gardens. These little tiny gardens that do the same thing. The main goal is to make a connection between the interior and exterior. We had a garden on the roof also, which is the Sky Forest Garden, where you have your own forest in the middle of the city. So, and next to the bridge on the first floor, you'll also see what they call an engawa, which is a veranda between the garden and the building. And this veranda is, you'll see from this book, the illustration on the cover of this that's written about the tale of Genji shows them on the veranda. A lot of their lifestyle and a lot of their livelihood was lived out on the engawa, which is, this veranda. And it becomes this kind of interstitial space between the garden and the building, and it's specifically a Japanese construct. Besides the spatial constructs, another way that we've tried to infuse a Japanese authentic feeling is through materiality. In all ways, through the concrete, there are certain things that we've done with the concrete and create a cedar board formed work concrete that's a much softer feeling than the standard Japanese concrete, which in its own right is incredibly beautiful. But you get to see the two in this project where they're contrasted right next to each other. And all natural materials throughout almost virtually the whole hotel, especially in each room. So we have like natural solid cherry tables, solid cherry floors. The tatami is all natural rush. The wallpapers are all natural, varying from washi, like the woven washi, to lacquered washi that we use in the washrooms and areas that are wet. because obviously lacquerware has always been the way that they do their waterproofing. So we're trying to use the traditional techniques in a new way. On the second floor windows, we have an incredible washi that was done by Eriko Horiki, who is a washi artist, but she takes the traditional technique and uses it in a modern architectural way. Like in our lobby, she's taken 5 layers of washi, traditional rice paper, but has embedded it with silver chips. So when the sun comes through it, instead of seeing the shimmering that you would expect on the interior, you would see a shadow. So it's quite interesting that you see the inverse of what you think. And then on the exterior, you see the shimmering of the light. A really important feature of architecture that I think is sometimes neglected, which is the details. So all the things that I've been speaking to up until now, you'll see in the details. You'll see references to the river from the first floor lobby and the Kamo River in all the lights. So ceiling lights all have some kind of reference to either kind of the flow of water or kind of a rippling effect, which the first experience you get in the hotel is when you walk in, there's a water fountain and you see the ripple. So again, when you're in your room and you look up from your bed, maybe you're going to see the ripple on the light. Another detail would be where we said we're always trying to make a connection between the interior and the exterior. We did that through the gardens. And it doesn't only happen in the gardens, but if you look up on the ceiling, you might not notice at first there's a very gentle curve to hide the curtain boxes. But instead of making a wall that drops down, which kind of disconnects you from the exterior and the mountains, the gentle curve actually disappears and you really see a connection between yourself and the mountains or yourself and the city, depending on which view you get. Another detail that is unique to our hotel, I think, is that all the furniture in the rooms and the lobby are designed by an interior designer and made for our hotel for our guest comfort. With the exception of the chair that I'm sitting on, which was designed by a very famous Danish designer, Vernon Panton. So they're called Panton chairs that were made specifically to sit on tatami and make you feel comfortable at a lower level.
Okay, hi. You might notice that there's a really colorful ceiling here, and the reason for that is because they're automatic smoke screens, which allowed us to have the doors really high all the way up to the ceiling to give a luxurious feeling. Now, this was probably one of the biggest challenges in the whole project, and in order to facilitate the fire codes, we had to have a smoke screen, which you see here is the red one, and it drops down and keeps the smoke from coming out of the rooms during a fire. And it was extremely challenging because all the manufacturers are different and I had to coordinate everything. And instead of just having this one color, we decided to make a pattern and make dummy panels so you don't really notice which is the operating panel for the smoke screen and which is not. And in the long run, this probably came out to be one of the most interesting features of the whole hotel.
In our hotel, we really think discovery. I thought discovery is really the most important part. There's things in layers, so you never see the whole thing at once. You discover things over time, so that in all 19 of our rooms, which are all unique, you'll always, every time you come back, you'll have a different experience. That's critical to our philosophy.